skills. So while we're talking about this, I will give you a fair idea of what we do when we talk about communication, since I understand that all of you must be from some technical backgrounds, and maybe you wouldn't have enough idea about what we talk about when we deal with communication skills. As you will understand that communication is something which is very basic and is also most important whenever we come in any professional situation, any technical situation. It is important that we be able to communicate ourselves clearly, so that the other person on the other side, who could be your boss or your subordinate, should be able to understand what exactly is the problem, and then the entire work and the entire plan of action will revolve around it. So, just to tell you a few things about communication, this is basically a process whereby we share our experiences. And with the sharing of those experiences, we ensure that the other person understands us correctly. And how does this happen? It happens because the more you communicate, the better your what you're wanting to tell the other person becomes clear to the second person. So once that is happening, the you get some feedback in the form of what the receiver of the message has to say to the sender of the message. That feedback is then is communicated to you. You process it and you understand it, and then you frame a response to it, and then you communicate to the people. So ideally, this entire process of communication takes from place from the very basic model of intrapersonal communication. When you think about a certain situation yourself, and then you figure out what can be the best solution for it. From there, we proceed to interpersonal communication, which is one-on-one communication or face-to-face communication, uh, which can be both professional as well as personal. And then after that, we talk about group communication and technology mediated communication. Like the class that we're having right now is a technology mediated communication class. And a group communication will always see certain kind of group dynamics emerge, as in one person will emerge to be a leader who could be the opinion leader, who could have a clearer understanding of the concept which is being discussed. And he would either bring the group to agree onto a certain thing, or there would be some kind of consensus that would emerge from the discussion in a group. So this is group communication. There can be a small group communication, say for example this class. It can be a large group communication where you might be talking to 250, 300, or 500 people. So this is one thing. And of course, the fourth kind of communication is mass communication, where you're using media to communicate. And this communication is taking place to a large number of faceless audiences who can be geographically apart in time and space. So when you see something, say for example, some World Cup, a World Cup match could be available here in India as well as in the United States. We hear that this time the World Cup is going to be held in United States, so it will be available in Indian time. At the same time, synchronously, it will be available to the Indian audiences as well. So this is the basic concept of mass communication, whereby you're using media to communicate with large faceless audiences whose identity you do not know. Okay, so this is the basic concept. Now, when we talk about the process of communication, we need to understand how communication actually takes place. Like I was earlier saying, that there would be some kind of feedback which would emerge as a result of the message that the sender has sent to the receiver. So the basic elements in this communication process are four. There is one sender, there is one message, there is a channel, and there is a receiver. So the message is what you want to communicate. The channel could be a language, the channel could be technology, the channel could be media, any of these. And then further, you get onto the receiver's end. From the receiver, you derive a feedback which is getting sent to the sender. And in this kind of a situation, the receiver becomes the sender, and the sender becomes the receiver. Again, when we are talking in terms of interpersonal or group communication, there is a certain kind of encoding and decoding that is happening at the end of both the receiver as well as the sender. So you would see that a message has been received. This message is being mm, thought about, or it is being processed in a human brain. Then it is being converted into, it has been given some language. Suppose you have a question to ask out of my discussion, you will give it your question some language. That language will get convert, will be again encoded. This is encoded. When you're putting language to your idea, you're encoding it, and through that language this feedback is going to the receiver. Suppose we, all of us, understand different languages, it will be difficult to communicate. So there has to be certain degree of commonality between the sender and the receiver. Only when there is something common between the senders and the receivers can this actually happen. So, one of the communication scientists is Dennis McQuail, and he says that communication is a process that increases commonality and requires some basic commonality to occur at all. So, if communication at all has to take place, there has to be certain level of commonality between the sender and receiver, which in this case can be language. So this is the basic process of communication. Then when we talk about the barriers of communication, there are certain barriers which can be psychological, which can be social, which can be semantic. So say for example, psychological barriers. Now these are the barriers that are a result of how you actually feel, or what your attitude is, what your opinion is towards something. So if you already think that um, a certain section of the population, or say for example women don't do so well in academics as compared to men, if you think that, you would be more reluctant to take ideas where people talk about breaking the glass ceiling, or bringing about parity in responsibilities or in the pay of women as compared to men. So the idea is, what sort of communication will you accept, and what kind of communication would you reject? So you would reject all the communication which you would not find is in accordance to your preconceived notions, your beliefs, or your value system. So this can be a psychological barrier of communication. Then, when we say social, it could be various things, like if you look at the Muslim countries, there they don't shake hands with women. Okay, so this is a social barrier. So culturally and socially, people are different, as a result of which something which is good in one part of the world may not be considered as very good in another part of the world. So that becomes a communication barrier, because then you cannot talk at the same level. So that's one. Then the third thing, of course, is semantic barrier. And semantic barrier is when there are people who do not understand the meaning of certain communication. Whenever you don't understand the meaning, anything which has something to do with the meaning, and meaning does not necessarily mean language. Meaning can mean the interpretation of what is being said. Maybe both the receiver as well as the sender understand a certain language, but they would not be able to understand the import of one's words. So if a person is saying something and meaning something else, if you don't understand that, that is also a semantic barrier. Language is also a semantic barrier. So these are the various kinds of barriers of communication, whereby we are talking in terms of socio-cultural barriers, we are talking in terms of semantic barriers, and we are talking in terms of psychological barriers. Having said this, it is important to understand that whenever we talk of media, any sort of media, be it social media, be it the traditional forms of TV and newspapers and all, either ways, media helps in creating certain meaning. Okay, so this is called social construction of reality. And when we talk of social construction of reality, the kind of reality that we think that exists in our world is actually mediated by various kinds of media. So if you're reading a lot of news on violence, you would understand that the world has become a more violent place. As compared to this, when you will look at the data, you will find that 10 years back, or maybe a few hundred years back, there used to be much more violence as compared to uh, our world, and we are a more peaceful world in that manner. So it depends on what you are seeing through media and what sort of lens are you wearing. So if you are able to see, so say for example the government, if you are able to see where all the government of the country has failed us, you will be able to take a proper decision. And wherever you are able to see that there is no strong opposition to it, it will affect your decision. So either ways, the social construction of reality talks about the reality that you are allowing media to create for you. Okay, so if you really believe on that media, when you really have faith in a certain kind of media, you are bound to spend time with it, you are bound to engage with it. Yeah, so if maybe say for example there is some fake news, but it has come to me through Facebook, uh, and through one of my friends, I am a little more likely to believe it than when I maybe hear it on a news channel, because the news anchor is not a person who is known to me, and I know that news channels these days give fake information. Okay, but it is less likely that I will doubt my friend on Facebook. So ideally, the kind of belief that you have in a media, in a certain kind of media, or an outlet of information, will decide your reality, because what you believe and what you don't believe is finally going to have a say in how you treat a certain media to be. It will also let you know what kind of reality you're creating for yourself. So this is called social construction of reality. Okay. All right. Having said that, I would now talk about some interpersonal skills and facing an interview. And I do think that facing an interview is something which can be maybe of greater use to you, since I understand that most of you are technical hands in this class, and it will help you to know and understand what all you can do when you're facing an interview. So when we talk about interviews, we know what an interview is. Yeah. So there is a board of interviewers who are out to interview a single interviewee, or it can be a one-to-one interview. Either ways. Now there are various kinds of interviews about which we will talk right now, and in order to ace an interview, what you require is good communication skills, a perfect body language, and technical language of the area which is in which you're being interviewed. So, if industrial safety is your area, people are going to question you not just on industrial safety, its components, its aspects, its elements, its principles, and whatnot. They're also going to see the kind of conviction that you have, which will be evident to them through your body language and through your communication skills. So how you're able to articulate what you say. If something is bad, one way of saying it is this is bad, and another way of saying it is not acceptable because, or maybe we can defer this because. So whenever you're giving an answer, you have to see to it that how you are communicating, how you're articulating what you want to say. That provides for a good interview skill. So because these interviews provide an opportunity to demonstrate your knowledge and your skills and other important abilities, which the organization is looking for, but at the same time they're also looking for a level-headed person, and hence the communication skills become important. Of course, there is certain kind of preparation that you must do. Why? Because you need to know what kind of work culture and set of values this particular organization has as compared to others. So that helps you to ace the interview better. And now, if I discuss with you what are the various kinds of interview, let's first talk about the one-on-one interview. Now, this, there is one person who is an expert who has called you. He is the interviewer or she is the interviewer, and you are the interviewee. So we say sit face to face in a formal setup, and it could be a person from HR, it could be a senior expert, subject expert, anybody. So one thing is your general stage, so the person being interviewed is introduced at this stage, and it all starts with how you're looking at a certain component of this company for which you've been called to hire, and what sort of body language and communication skills and the level of confidence that you're showing. So at this stage, one has to be confident, but one also has to be more relaxed. Otherwise, the interviewer will easily sense your anxiety. And it is always courteous to ask for permission before sitting, and your resume, a short profile, should always be ready with you, which you were anyway sent to the organization. But and so one has to be prepared to respond to any sort of questions that may arise in during that tenure. And then, of course, there is a technical stage. Now, this was a general stage. The second stage, or the technical stage, is where your knowledge is being tested. So technical knowledge in the particular subject area has to be tested, and one may be asked some complex questions about the subject area. Um, it could be about how a particular process is done, or it can be a situation test, that in such kind of a situation, what would you do? So accordingly, one must be prepared for, because here what we are testing is the problem solving abilities, and many businesses, many corporations have their own format or designed questionnaires to test the technical knowledge. And also sometimes people do end up taking written tests. So problem solving abilities are put to test here. The third stage is the operational stage. And during this stage, your behavioral skills and the interviewing skills are put to test, where you may be asked operational questions and behavioral questions. So it could be related to a situation of crisis. It can be to test your crisis management skills. It can be to know how the candidate will respond in a crisis. So these situational or operational questions help people in understanding whether you will be able to respond to real life situations or not. So it could be a hypothetical question, but it could be a situation test as well. So when you will look at your unit, all of this has been explained in greater detail. I would request all of you to go through it and also look at the sample questions that have been put there, because those are the kind of questions that you may expect to be asked if you're going for an interview. Then that was the one-to-one interview. Now we talk about the screening interview. These are the first levels of interviews, and they usually determine whether a candidate is qualified for the position that has been advertised. So the majority of companies plan the first level of interview while the HR is being involved in this. So it may not be the technical side, it may be the HR side which is being involved in it. And in the later stages, if the candidate crosses this first stage, there can be a specific area questions that may be asked in the second stage. So, one more thing is that because post-corona, we've started using technology a lot, so it is quite possible that the first level screening is done on phone or by video calls on WhatsApp or some such ways. So video conferencing, again, you have to know certain kind of etiquettes for video conferencing and video conferencing interviews, because screening provides a detailed information about your education, and it also provides your work experience. So the employer would like to look into where the candidate received their education, and when they completed it, what have their achievements been. So this is your chance to highlight those achievements. It is your chance to tell the interviewer what you're good at. So that is the first thing. And then when we talk about behavioral interviews, It is more about, there is the STAR method of interviewing. STAR stands for, S stands for situation, T stands for task, A stands for action, and R stands for result. So this is one of the most important aspects when a candidate is being evaluated, when you are being evaluated by any organization in terms of your behavior. So companies conduct these types of behavior interviews to assess what kind of behavior you had in the past or you may have now, and how does it affect your future work. Now, these interviews are used to assess how you react to stress, and whether you have some leadership capabilities or not, and how do you conduct yourself in a professional setup, how do you take initiative, how are you able to think about something which is more long term, your vision for the future. So they also make use of a lot of psychometric tests and all to evaluate people, especially at management levels, where direct you have to deal with the customers directly, or you have to deal with people outside your organization directly. So, like I was saying, there is a STAR method which is used. So, when we talk about the situation, it tells you the situation in detail and would ask you how you would respond to the situation. The task would be to perform a hypothetical task, which could be questioned, and it could be of problem solving nature. Action would talk about, if you're asked a behavioral question, what would you do in such a situation? So they will look forward to you completing the task at hand, and the final result in terms of outcome. So how well you're able to put forth your results. Like these days, a lot of people do a lot of professional degrees, but everybody doesn't have the capacity and capability to put your thoughts logically. How well you're able to organize your thought after, after you come across a lot of information, and how you're able to use it to the benefit of your organization and your team is what is tested. So that is the behavioral interview. Then group and panel interviews are also there. Now, the panel interview or a group interview could be where there would be more than one people who would be interviewing you. So there can be multiple interviewers, and there can be one or more interviewees, because sometimes the group interview also helps the interviewers decide between you and the others who they've invited. So it can be a group setting kind of a thing. uh, Now, the group interviews are typically conducted when a job position must be filled in a short period of time. So, people are looking to conduct group interviews where multiple positions of a similar nature can be filled. Okay, so there can be more than, say, for example, 5 assistant managers need to be picked. So, they group discussion, usually when people prepare for their MBA, they also get ready for the group discussions and all. So, this is a way of interviewing people and also asking as to how this can be, how a certain situation can be looked at, or how it can be solved, a certain problem can be solved by help of this. And also they're testing the stress management capability of the candidates. So that is one. Then when we talk about the panel interviews, here there is a panel of people who's out to interview you. Okay, a panel interview is typically a question and answer session, and it does not usually include any activities. So active listening becomes very critical here. Why? Because they're asking question, you have to not just understand the question, but also process it and formulate the best possible response for it. And they will be obviously tricky questions. They will not be simple questions, because they're trying to assess your knowledge, your personality, and how well suited your candidature would be to the position that they've advertised for. So this can be a little stressful because it frequently involves more than one people who are judging you, while you are the only one who's responding to whatever is being asked. So panel interviews are used by businesses mainly to save time and money, because if an interview with different kind of experts at different levels is required, they would obviously require more money and more time and more energy. Further, the communication gap that occurs between from one stage to another can be avoided because all the subject experts are sitting together and judging you. So that is one thing. Then we also have certain interviews by the name of that go by the name of follow-up interviews. Now, this is when the candidate has been chosen for the first round, and when you're confident that you have a job, but you're called back for another interview. These are called follow-up interviews, and the company will usually conduct these to determine whether the selected candidate is a good fit for the profile for which they're looking for a person, or they are similar in approach, and one should uh, the follow-up interviews usually are is the one when um, after they've checked your confidence, after they have checked your credibility, they call you for another round because they want to see what your knowledge level is like. So that is one thing. And of course there is an interview which which we call an exit interview, which happens when a candidate leaves the company. So when you're ready to leave your company and out to join a new one, they like to take a feedback about your stay in the company, about what you liked, what could be improved. And that is also the stage when get your relieving letters and all. And that is the exit interview. They also help in generating both positive as well as negative feedback for the company, because the candidate who is leaving is then in a position to say why he is leaving. If I have not been treated well at the company, and that is the reason why I looked for a new job and I moved, the this in the exit interview, this will be an important feedback for the HR people. So this is an exit interview, and for this, of course, you don't need to prepare so much as the company should be ready to take your feedback on. And like I've already spoken, these days we have more of digital interviews, because a lot of people are there who live in remote areas, or people don't want to spend the time and energy to go from, say for example, Delhi to Bombay just to appear in an interview until 2 3 rounds have been completed, and the company as well as the candidate knows that now is the time to meet because we might hire this person. So, telephonic interviews, as a result of this, when since we're talking about interviews, you as candidates must know how to deal with digital interviews, as in how to talk, how to come across. Like when we talk about telephonic interviews, usually the beginning should be with a smile. And even if it is a telephonic interview, you're not on a video call, your smile communicates. So if you're smiling, you appear delightful. You appear delightful by means of the sound. Okay. So that is one thing. And then how do you address somebody? How do you greet somebody? All those things are important. And like they say, when we talk about the telephonic interviews, they say within 3 to 4 rings, you must pick. So, why? Because it also conveys less of desperation at your end and also allows your mind to prepare to respond. So, answer the phone after it has rung 3 to 4 times, and concentrate more on your voice, on the use of your words, because obviously, since you're not present in front of the interviewer, your communication skills or body language cannot be checked, but your voice modulation, what you're saying, what your words mean, is getting checked. Okay. Then when you answer a phone, it must be in a professional manner, and tone is important because it is the only way to make a good impression. Then of course, after that, we talk about video conference interview. Now, video conference interview is again technology mediated, one on one. When we are talking about one on one, usually some companies also send a brief tutorial on how to use a certain platform. So, say for example, they are conducting your interview on Teams. They will send you a list of instructions and a small tutorial as to how you go about and what do you do. So, say for example, there are various breakout rooms. How do you enter one breakout room? How do you go on to the next, because you have been selected in certain round, and there could be multiple rounds which have been arranged in this very video call. Okay, so you are in front of one expert, and after 15 minutes of interview, you might be directed to breakout room 2, where another expert is sitting to talk to you. and then to breakout room 3. So at the end of your 45-minute interview, you might realize that three people with expertise in various areas, one of them could be a psychologist, could be there to talk to you. So that is it. There can be other digital interviews as well, like video resume. These days, a lot of e-pro portfolios do the rounds, because when people like to look at each other's portfolio, they like to see what work they have done, the candidates have done, and how they are better suited for the job than other candidates. So video resume is one way of doing it. Different online based tests are also there. This could be more of psychometric in nature, because these days, especially post corona, stress has become a relevant factor which cannot be discounted. So a lot of online tests also in the primary stages focus at the psychology of a person, as to how well this person can take stress, how does he or she respond to stress situations, and whether one comes with a certain positive frame of mind or not, because the person is going to enter a team, and the morale of a team can be made or can be broken because of the kind of person who's there in the team. So that is one thing. Then also we have, since AI has come into the area, artificial intelligence has come up with a lot of chatbots. Everywhere we try and get onto companies, we come across a chatbot, be it banking, be it telecommunications, be it anywhere. You Everywhere AI has come. So many businesses also use these bots or automated technologies to process video and voice interviews for analysis. So they take it up for later analysis. That is also kind of digital interviews. And accordingly, you must be prepared if you are going to, ace such interviews. Okay. Then there are also certain presentation skills, like when you've been asked to come prepared with a PPT, it is important that you know that you do not put a lot of content on one slide only. A lot of people end up making a lot of text heavy slides. You must understand that PPTs or all those slides that you make are only to help you remember what point you want to discuss. You don't have to put on the exact process and make it text heavy, such that you don't have to make your interviewer suffer, because if the interviewer has to suffer at your hands, it is very less likely that you will get picked. So, and then of course, how should your first slide be? As in the title, the name, the address, the profile, everything. Avoid using too many words, as I said, and then use very legible, simple language. In case of face-to-face interaction, the interviewer will be sitting a little farther away. So use words that can be read and understood on the slides, and use appropriate images and graphics, but don't overdo. A lot of people become so enthused with the kind of graphics and images they use that they overdo that. So in the process of making your PPT interesting, don't divert their attention. Then you can also animate the PPT. This also happens these days. We have interactive PowerPoints and everything, so one can use that as well, as long as you're using it in a formal fashion and in a way that does not allow people to go overboard. It is fine. And yeah, your body language is important. One must be dressed in formals. In the Indian context, it could be, for the women, it could be the Western wear or a sari. And for men, it has to be plain shirts and trousers. Your shoes must be polished. Your hair must be well done. They should not look like that of a college goer. So all those things one must take care of. And of course, the way you begin, how you introduce yourself, how you greet, is all going to have a positive impact and demonstrate your level of confidence to the interviewers who are sitting there. It is also very important that you practice your presentation before you finally go there. So just creating the PPT and making it good isn't enough. See to it that you stand in front of a mirror and practice it too. You've done it once, you will know exactly how you're appearing. You will be more in control of the situation at the time when the interviewers ask you to. So that is one thing. And body language and this thing, your the first impressions have something which are very directly proportional. The way you stand, the way you greet, the way the tone of your voice, all of it is going to communicate. Your body language is going to communicate and create that first impression on the interviewers, right? So as soon as you walk into the organization, you're being watched. As soon as you enter the interview room, you're being watched. So make sure that when you're speaking to the receptionist or the guard, and when you greet people, you do that with the smile. And how you behave, how you are, will speak a lot about that. So when you okay, do not offer a handshake on your own until you're offered one, right? So since they are interviewing you, they are senior to you. If they offer a hand to shake, you can shake it up. And then how should your handshake be? It should not be a dead fish shake hand, and it should not be something that crunches everybody's fingers. It should just be a firm, warm, and friendly handshake. That is how it should be. So those are a few tips about this. Uh, all right. One more thing that I would like to tell you. Now, who are these people? Who are these people who have to be hired for a company? Think from the company's point of view. When you've been called for the interview, you must understand why somebody wants to hire you. Okay, what kind of people can a company be looking for? So look at the whole perspective, build a whole perspective by looking at it from the other side of the table. What kind of a person would you hire for this position? A person who can work along for a long term. Nobody likes people who stay in a company, learn the work, stay there for a year or so, and then jump. A lot of people do it, but companies don't particularly like it. So if you're going into brand names that you would like, that are respected in the market, don't try to jump from there in a short period of time unless something is so pressing that you must do that. Then people with good teamwork skills, those are the people who get hired. And this is why all those psychological tests and all those personality tests that you are put through, or the situation test that I was talking about earlier in my lecture, you put through, is because they want to see how good your teamwork skills are. Then, of course, the third important thing is people who understand the market properly and can bring profit. All companies are working for revenues, so they do not want anybody who just becomes a lame duck in the company. Okay. Then people with good experience and impressive resume, how important projects they have done, how good an experience they've had, how many reference letters speak well about the candidate. Whenever you ask for a reference letter, as long as the company or an institution is asking in secret, it can be a different thing. But otherwise, when people give you their reference letters, they usually write neutral to good ones. So how good a reference letter have you got is also important. Then people with great problem solving skills, because obviously when we're talking of industrial safety or any corporate organization for that matter, every now and then there can be a problem. So people like to have more and more professionals who have those problem solving tactics and capability and capacity. Then people who have an online presence. Why? Because if your company has done something good and you share it on all your Twitter handle, your Facebook, your this and that, everywhere you're able to create a social presence because of this. And then which brand do you belong to is also important. So an online presence makes it easy for the management to pick you. Okay. So why? Because the HR is going to conduct a research on you. They're going to look at your profiles everywhere on social media and see what kind of a person you are. So you can trick them in a personality tests, or maybe to some extent in psychometric tests, but you can't trick them on the social media. So then, of course, people who can be multitaskers. So somebody who can manage two things at a time, or can sit in position in case some other people from his team are not available. So multitaskers are always very important to because they can work in multiple projects all at once. And then people who can adapt to a company's culture. They are also important because they have employees who can adapt to the culture without creating or causing any problems. These are the people who are adjusting, who can adapt to changes very well. In fact, in times to come, another 10, 15, 20 years down the line, we would see a lot of those traditional jobs that people are doing getting replaced by AI. So, how open you are to change, how open you are to understanding and getting into a different position and adapting to changes fast is going to become really important. Okay. So, that is it about interviewing skills. And I hope this is something that is going to help you uh, in cracking interviews as well as in cracking this course. This should be helping you. And if there are any questions, I am open to them. You may please unmute yourself and ask. So I have a meeting right now at 1 o'clock, so I will call the class off. If you have any questions, please raise your hands. Please unmute yourself. Shekhar, are you here? Yes, Mr. Naidu. Please tell me.
Actually, we have submitted a some assignment, madam, regarding
Okay.
this subject also. So the question paper in the final exam, same like that pattern only, madam, or
No, no, no. Okay, good question. And I hope this is going to help all of you. When we write assignment questions, it is to test how well you have studied the course. And then we try and give you some application based assignments. But when we are framing questions for the question paper, it is completely, we don't try to get anything which is outside the course curriculum. So, whatever content, whatever units have been given in the course, the questions will be from that only. But as compared to this, when I'm giving you an assignment, it could be like if I'm talking about interview skills, I can ask you to make a small video of 5 minutes on body language while giving a speech or some such thing and submit it as an assignment. But this is not something that I will put in the question paper. Am I clear?
no, I'm asking about the pattern. Means the questions have given 5 questions only.
Yeah.
Each question 20 marks. The
Yes.
pattern is same like that only, madam.
Yes, yes. It is either that or it can be 7 questions of 14 marks each. It can be that as well. Are
Okay,
you
okay, madam. Thank you.
okay? Any other questions, anyone? All right, a call has come for my meeting one more time. So I'll call this call class off. And I hope you stood benefited with this class. All the best. Bye bye, everyone.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you. कोमल ज्वाइन कर। हो गया?
अरे रिकॉर्डिंग बंद कर दो ना।
अच्छा, अपने आप चलता रहेगा?
मुझे रिकॉर्डिंग चलती रहेगी तो लंबी खिंच जाएगी।
नहीं, फिर कुछ करने की जरूरत है?
स्टॉप रिकॉर्डिंग।